Investigations are now underway into the crash landing of a Delta passenger plane at Pearson Airport yesterday afternoon. Joining us now is Colonel Jay Joseph, a pilot and U.S. colonel with more than 50 years of aviation experience, including investigations. We thank you for being with us today, Colonel. I want to start. So you have 30,000 flight hours here. Take us inside this Delta plane, inside the minds of these pilots landing at Pearson Airport. At what point is there any indication that something is wrong? Is it at landing, or do those warnings come before that?
Typically when there's some anomaly with regard to the operation of the aircraft, some things just happen to fall in the lap of the pilot at the last instant. However, by all regards, everything that we've seen thus far, and again, this is very early in the investigation and extremely preliminary, there don't appear to be any indications that anything has gone awry. What we do see, and again, I would caution everybody at this point, that it appears that the rate of descent of the aircraft in the most recent video shows that it doesn't appear that the rate of descent was arrested prior to touchdown. Commercial aircraft are typically anything above a 200-foot-a-minute rate of descent could be proved to be a hard landing, if you will, and possibly impose structural damage to the aircraft. So there were very dynamic conditions that prevailed at the time of the mishap. We know the winds were quite gusty, but we don't see any indication of anomalies with regard to the operation of the aircraft, prior to the mishap itself. But again, the very challenging gusty weather conditions that prevailed at the time of the mishap certainly look like they would have contributed significantly to the workload of the pilots. But again, clearly that rate of descent simply has to be arrested prior to touchdown. And again, the videos can be very deceiving, the parallax, the angles that you look at. But at first blush, it appears that rate of descent does not look like it was mitigated towards the end prior to touchdown.
Anyone working on a plane is prepared for, the worst case scenario. You worked as a Marine Corps. You've been in tense situations, I'm assuming. But how delicate is the timing of all of this when the passengers are specifically being evacuated off the plane with the help of the crew members?
Well, I will tell you, as a former airline pilot, I don't see that there is any deviation from, at least that we know at this point, from that protocol with this flight. It looks like the cabin crew, the captain, safety supervisors in the back of the aircraft did an extraordinary job of getting the passengers off the aircraft. But again, it doesn't appear, at least at first blush, anything we know at this point, and I think thus far some of the witness statements that the passengers anticipated anything other than a normal landing. I'm sure that with the gusty conditions, it was probably choppy and bumpy on the approach, so that may have been somewhat of a precursor that the conditions on the ground were going to be not the smoothest, if you will, but certainly within the constraints of their operational protocols. But again, the captain of the aircraft will brief the flight attendants in the back, their safety supervisors, if there's any concerns, such that they're prepared for any anomalies that may be approached on the landing, if you will. But there doesn't appear to be any indication at this point that anything like that, any anomaly at all, took place, at least with regard to what we know thus far.
So what are you looking at? You're an aviation expert. What questions are you asking, and who are you asking those questions to?
Well, I caution everybody, always with these mishaps, at first blush, take a deep breath. I think that the TSB and the NTSB working together will have good access. It certainly appears that the cockpit voice recorder, the digital flight data recorders, that empirical data that will indicate specifically what the performance indices were for the aircraft, on the flight prior to the mishap will be able to assist in putting together a very good 3D model, if you will, of what the conditions were prior to the mishap. And certainly that, in conjunction with the cockpit voice recorder and ATC, recovery of the meteorological conditions that prevailed at the time, I think a good model would be put together so that the investigators can put together a probable cause. And again, in any investigation, the reason that we do it is lessons learned to preclude future mishaps under similar conditions.
Colonel, real quickly, just out of curiosity, this plane landed on its back. I'm assuming almost every passenger plane, they have those slides that are deployed where the passengers can exit in emergency situations. In this case, that wasn't possible. So what happened here? Are the slides not deployed? Are they automatically deployed because the passengers did have to jump off a plane on its back?
Well, clearly the slides did not deploy, and in this case, that would have been a good thing because the aircraft was actually upside down. I think in this case, at least what we've seen so far, it looks that the cabin crew, the flight attendants, did an extraordinary job of deplaning the aircraft as quickly as they could. It is very rare that an aircraft, a transport category aircraft, would arrive at the mishap site on its back, if you will, which turns everything literally upside down with regard what the normal strategy would be to evacuate the airplane. So in this case, the slides did not deploy. At least there's no evidence of that thus far, and that would have been a good thing. But the flight attendants did a great job evacuating the passengers, and it's absolutely miraculous that we did not have any fatalities in this flight.
I echo those sentiments as well here. Okay, Colonel J. Joseph, we thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.